Right, Archmage's Newt. 2 mana for a 2/2. It's a mount. Okay, saddle 3 though. When Archmage's Newt deals combat damage to a player, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. That card gains flashback 0 until end of turn. Instead, if Archmage's Newt is saddled. Good card? Like, really good card if you can get it working? This has to be in a very specific deck, and you have to have the instant or sorcery cards to make this work, which in limited you might not have. But if you're building a deck if this is like your first rare, you might build the deck specifically around this. But then you need a creature with power 3 to saddle this. But you don't necessarily need to saddle it to get the value. You just need to saddle it if you want infinite value. I don't know. It's possible this card just kind of wins you the game, but I'm not sure. I'd have to see what we have on offer for instants and sorceries to flash back with this thing. Because, like, you could remove something with a removal card to hit with this, to flash back the removal card, to remove something else, and at that point you're already like up. But you had to pay for both. Unless you can saddle this, but again you need something with power 3 or more to saddle. And that's not I mean, that could happen on turn 3, but then you probably don't have an instant or sorcery card unless there's a 1-mana instant or sorcery card that you played on turn 1, and then why do you care about flashbacking it? I don't know. It doesn't have any way of protecting itself, so it can just be removed. I think I'd try it, maybe. If I had the instant and sorcery cards to make it work, I'd probably play it. But the problem with the limited is you need an amount of creatures, realistically, or else you're just going to die on board. And I mean, this needs other creatures to saddle it to really get the full value, so I don't know. Canyon Crab. A 2-mana 0/5. Right? That for 2 mana it becomes a 2/3, and then for 4 mana it becomes a 4/1. Okay? At the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, draw a card, then discard a card. Is that Blue's thing? Is the end of turn, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, is that Blue's thing? Because in Blue, if you're doing Blue-White and you have like that lifelink or that flying guy, and you're doing stuff in your opponent's turn with instant blue spells and counter magic, maybe I can see those white cards that don't do stuff being better. This card also isn't bad. Just, if you don't play anything loot, I like that. And it's got a fat ass on it, so it can block. And even eat some stuff if they, attack something stupid. Daring Thunder Thief. A 4-mana 4/4 with flash that enters the battlefield tapped. It would appear we are playing in our opponent's turn. This is a good card. Turn 4, you play it at the end of your opponent's turn. And then it enters tapped, obviously. And then on your turn, you just untap it and go. Start beating ass. 4-mana 4/4. I like that. Plus, you could even use this to saddle that frog. Yeah, good card, I think. I mean, as a common, I'd probably run a couple of these. I think I'm fine with that. Deep Muck Desperado. Sure. 3 mana for 2/4. Whenever you commit a crime, each opponent mills 3 cards. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay, sure. Is this good? Probably. If you've got enough targeted removal. Again, this is a bit of a problem because this is what always throws me about blue. Blue wants you to play, or in other sets, blue has wanted you to play as many spells as possible. But if you don't have that critical number of creatures, it doesn't matter how many spells you have, and as every single spell in your deck is hard removal, because your opponent's just going to play something and start hitting you. Like, unless you have, like, a critical mass of removal, counter, and bounce spells, this sort of thing isn't great. I don't know. I mean, it's a 3 mana 2/4. It's good on the block, and it just has a passive decent effect that you can just mill your opponent out. And in limited, you have much less cards to play with. So, like, if you get 1 or 2 of these down and then, like, commit a crime, like, 1 or 2 times, your opponent's probably just losing. It's not bad. It's like the, God, one of the sets had a 0/4 common who, it was the adventure set, the first adventure set. It was a 0/4, and the front side, the adventure side of it was 1 mana, your target opponent mills 4 cards. And people were just playing, like, 7 of them in their limited decks and just milling people out on, like, turn 4. It was stupid. So this card, again, it's uncommon, so you probably don't have, like, a whole bunch of these. But you can commit you can commit a couple of crimes with this out, probably. Unless your opponent hard removes it, which they're not too happy about because it's a 3 mana 2/4 that does nothing. But, yeah, I think this is fine. I think it's actually, I've convinced myself it's actually better than I thought. It's got flying! You pick it! Woo! That was hard. It is a 4 mana and next turn 4/3 flyer, or a 5 mana and this turn 4/3 flyer. Sure. I guess plotting doesn't count as casting from your hand. Does this... Wait, how does this work? If you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn... So if you plot something, it doesn't cast it from your hand because it exiles it. Either way. So you may pay 3, exile this card from your hand. That's not casting it. And then you may cast it as a sorcery from exile, not from your hand, without paying its mana cost. Again, not casting a card from your hand, so you trigger the things all along. So actually, this is probably better than... I mean, it's a 4/3 fly. You're just going to play it. Like, let's not be silly here. It's got flying, it's got evasion, it's, you know, it's you're just going to play it. Double down. 4 mana for enchantment. Whenever you cast an outlaw spell, copy that spell. Outlaw? Assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks are outlaws. Copies of permanent spells becomes tokens. Okay, so that's a mercenary. That's a rogue. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say... It's 4 mana, do nothing. Essentially. So on turn 4, it's... I do absolutely nothing. Which, in standard, I would say probably undoable. But in limited, if your opponent isn't absolutely hammering you to death by this point, and you play this, you've probably just won the game unless they have removal for it. Because, like, you play this, and then next turn you play this Desperado thing, and you have 2 2/4s with 2 mana left over for some crime. To just crime all over your opponent and make them mill 6. I mean, again, it's... This is the thing. There was a spell similar to this, Necro Duality or whatever. There was a zombie spell in a set that was whenever you play a zombie card, create a copy. Or copy that. Whenever you play a zombie spell, copy the spell. And I played a zombie deck, and if I ever got that card down and started successfully playing zombies, my opponent was just done. And that was in standard. Like, in limited, if you could survive long enough to play that card and then also play zombies afterwards, your opponent was just done. And I think this is the same thing. If you play this and you're not dead, you probably just win. But there is every chance you're kind of just dead by this point, so I don't know. I think in standard, again, the zombie one, the zombie deck I played in the standard with it wasn't good. And this, I think if you tried to make a standard deck with this, it's not going to be good. It's turn 4, do absolutely fucking nothing. Your opponent's going to laugh in your face and smash the shit out of you. But I think in limited, you can maybe pull this off. Duelist of the Mind. Okay. 2 mana for a star 3. Flying Vigilance, Duelist of the Mind's power is equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn. Whenever you commit a crime, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card, and only once each turn. So, this is a Flying Vigilance 1/3 that, in blue, is probably like a 15/3 the following turn because you're in blue. No, in limited, this thing is... I mean, it's flying. Again, it's a cheap fly. You're just playing it. Don't even argue. It's a cheap fly. You're taking it in limited. So this is good in limited. Probably game. Is it possibly game winning? It depends. You can only trigger this effect once each turn, but there are other things that are going to let you draw. We'll have to see what other good draw cards there are, and it would depend what colors you go with it. What other colors go with it. But, yeah, this card's probably good. Emergent Haunting. 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, and Emergent Haunting isn't a creature type, it becomes a 3/3 spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. Permanently. This is probably a really good card in like the plot and flash deck, which looks like it's probably something to do with white and blue, or maybe blue and black, or white, blue and black. Maybe Esper likes to flash stuff in and do stuff in your opponent's turn. Yeah, this is probably good. Like, it's a 2 mana. It's 2 mana do nothing, but that's okay, because you're probably more a controlling deck. And then after the following turn, if you don't play anything because you want to play in your opponent's turn, because all of your cards have got flash, like the Ox, this just becomes a 3/3 flyer permanently. And your opponent needs to do something about that, because it's a flying 3/3, which is just going to start cracking them in the face. Yeah, this is probably good. Again, anything with flying, I'm just going to say is good. Blue-white had a lot of flying. This is scary. Failed Fording. Okay, 2 mana, return target, non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you control a desert's back? Surveil 1. Look at the top card of your library. Yeah. 2 mana bounce is good. It's not as good as 1 mana bounce, but it's good. This is blue removal. So this is playable. Fibblethip, Lost on the Range. Hey, how's Fibblethip doing nowadays? He's a 3 mana 1/1 with Ward 2. Okay. You may look at the top of your card of your library at any time. Sure. Top card of your library has plot. Okay, so you can exile it and play it later. Plot cost is equal to its mana cost. Sure. You may plot non-land cards from the top of your library. I assumed so, or why would they have plot? It was weird. Sure. So you play Fibblethip and you play from the top of your library from then on. As long as you have the mana. And as long as it's not a land card. Because all you're going to do is just plot every card from the top of your library and play them the turn after, unless your opponent does something that you really need to deal with now, and then I guess use one of the cards in your hand. This is probably good. It's weird, because... But again, you probably are, because then you're not playing any cards from your hand, so all of your... If you didn't play a card from your hand this turn, stuff triggers. Yeah, I don't mind. I think this is a good card. 3 mana, 1/1. Dies to a stiff breeze. I'm going to stick with this okay. I don't think it's great. It's not game winning. It's okay. Just because it lets you just play off the top of your deck from then on, so you can just save the cards in your hand. But it is a 3 mana 1/1, and red previously has had a lot of deal 1 damage to everything spells that cost 1, which just kills this. Now, I don't know if they do in this set, and even if they do, you might not necessarily play them because they're generally considered not very good. But you could this could just die, or just get run over. Like if you're just getting attacked too much, this isn't going to save you. But you know, it's a cool effect. Fleeting Reflection. 2 mana, target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap that creature until end of turn. It becomes a copy of up to 1. Target creature you control gains hexproof. Untap that creature until end of turn. It becomes a target of 1 other creature. Okay. This is probably good. This is kind of like blue unanswerable removal. Sort of. Because say you've got, again, you might not like it, but say you've got Fibblefib. Your opponent has a giant 50-50 green creature that there is in this set. I don't know. We'll see when we get to green. But has the biggest boy in the set. Swings. You just give Fibblefib hexproof, so they can't do anything with it. Untap him if you attacked with him, which fucking, I have no idea why you do that. And then make it into a copy of the guy that's attacking you. Boop! Cool. Your creature dies, so does mine. This is, yeah, no, you die too. Like, if you have any creature on the board, this is, yeah, we just trade. Which is probably good. Depending on what's on offer. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd probably play this. Again, it's a bit of a weird one. But it is just we trade. The title of the card might as well just be we trade. Because if your opponent attacks you with something, you're probably just turning your creature into the creature they're attacking you with, and they probably just trade. Unless it's got more defense than it's got attack, and then why are you using this? And it gives your creature hexproof, so it's not like your opponent can interact with it after you've cast it. And like, if they try and blow your creature up, or if you block with it and they try and do something to your creature to get it out of the way, you just hexproof it and turn it into a copy. Yeah, this is probably okay. It's probably pretty good, actually. Gerolf the Flesh Right. Hey, Gerolf, how you doing? Right. This is zombies, so I like zombies. 3 mana for a 2/3. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn, other than your first spell that turn, create a zombie rogue creature token. Whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. This is probably game winning. Maybe? I'd like to think it's game winning. The issue is, how many spells can you play in a turn realistically in limited? Because if you play 3 spells, you get a 2/2, a 3/3, and a... No. Yeah, 4 spells. The first one, and then a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4. Plus whatever the spell effects are. Even if it's just 1 mana, do something, draw a card, like, or 2 mana, draw a card, or whatever the price for drawing a card is nowadays. But he doesn't protect himself. Being the only thing. And again, in limited, do you have that many spells? I guess creatures are also spells, but again, you'd have to build your deck around this one. It would be like you'd have to go like Geralf, and then like 21 mana and 2 mana spells that don't really do much unless you have Geralf. Like, I don't think you could play this guy and just pray that you have a decent... Maybe you do. Maybe you always play this guy and then you just pray that one game you have a really nice hand, that you play it out and your opponent doesn't kill it. You just vomit your hand on the field and get a bunch of zombies. That white card also counters this. The white one that means you can only play 1 card a turn. Opponent plays that on turn 3 and you just concede. I like this card. I would be half tempted to try and make a mono blue deck with this card in standard, but I don't know if it's good in limited. I'd probably play it in limited because it's cool, but I don't think it's good in limited, sadly. Geyser Drake, it's a flyer! Ooh, it's a flyer that does stuff. I like this. A 3 mana 2/3 flyer, as long as it's not your turn, spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. May I introduce you to the 3 mana 4/4. I'd play that. I think this card's good. I'd play a couple of these, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's a 3 mana 2/3 with flying, so you just start pecking for damage, and then you can play stuff in your opponent's turn for cheap. This is a card your opponent has to deal with. Or else you're just going to be playing your entire hand really cheap in their turn. And maybe not in limited, because again, in limited you might not have all the instant speed and flash stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of it, so maybe you do. Maybe this is just busted. Harrier Strix. 1 mana, 1/1, flying when it's battlefield, tap target permanent, and you can draw and then discard. This is fine. 1 mana, 1/1. This is a decent 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. I think you take this if you see it. Yeah. Jailbreak Scheme. For 1 mana, for 4 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It can't be blocked this turn. Sure. For 3 mana, target artifact or creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. It's okay. 3 mana, mega bounce. Well, yeah, it's like 3 mana tempo bounce thing because you put it on top of their library so they don't get their next draw. Unless they decide to put it to the bottom, and then you're just not going to see that creature again for a while. I don't know if I'd run this, but again, I generally think blue tempo, you need a critical mass of tempo cards. You can't really get that in limited. But it's not bad, it's just not super exciting. The Key to the Vault. Okay, 2 mana. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may exile a non-land card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Equip 3. Okay. I think this is bad. Now hear me out. First of all, you have to play this card. Then, there needs to be something for you to equip it to, and you have to pay 3 to equip it to that thing. And then, it gets no buffs, no way of getting through or anything like that. Then it just has to hit your opponent, and then you get to cast something random from the top of your library without paying its mana cost. Well, this is from that you may from look at that many cards from the top of your library. So this is looking at your own library, right? Also, how you doing, Saurus? Or are you playing some MTG at the moment, and your opponents are upset? But yeah, so I think this card is bad in limited because it's 2 mana to do nothing. Ah, you got your dailies done. Nice. Yeah, it's 2 mana to do nothing, and then you have to pay 3 mana to equip it, and then it doesn't give the creature any benefits. It's just if you hit your opponent, you get something free. I think this is too much effort for not enough return. Unless you hit someone and you bink your game-winning 9 mana win condition off the top and just free play it on turn 6 or something. But I think this is too much effort for not enough return. I don't think you can do this in limited. I think it's kind of Also, congratulations on hitting Mythic. One of these months I should put some effort in and try actually doing that, but it's the salt of a control player getting out controlled, especially if it's Jameer OS. But yeah. Loan Shark. A 4-mana 3/4. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast 2 or more spells this turn, draw a card. And you can plot. Okay. So this certainly looks like it's part of like the plot deck. Maybe that's how Geralf is supposed to work. Maybe you're supposed to save up a bunch of plotted cards, and then you play Geralf, and then you just like vomit plotted cards out. That could be good, to be fair. What do I think of Loan Shark? It's okay, I guess. I mean, it technically replaces itself, but you have to do stuff for it. Did you ever play ladder and encounter someone so much the instant they see your name or deck, they just concede since they know the matchup is an auto loss already? No, I play mostly down in like bronze, silver, gold, platinum, that sort of stuff. So you don't get the same people regularly because there's a lot of people down there. It's usually only in the higher ranks you probably see the same people over and over again. What do I think of Loan Shark? I mean, it is a decent blue creature, which doesn't happen very often, but I'm not too excited. Marauding Sphinx. Guess what? It has flying. You're probably taking it for limited. It is a 5-mana 3/5 flying vigilance ward 2. Whenever you commit a crime, surveil 2. Ability triggers only once each turn. Hey, that sounds pretty good to me. If I had someone who just conceded into me every time, I'd be mythic in no time. What do I think of Marauding Sphinx? It's a flyer with vigilance and it has ward. You just take this, right? Like, it's a big flyer. It's limited. You're just taking the big flyers and hitting people with them. The extra value of when you commit a crime, surveilling is nice, but I think you're just taking this because it's a 3/5 flyer. Metamorphic Blast. Okay. For 2, until end of turn, target creature becomes a white rabbit with base power and toughness 0/1. And for 4, target player draws 2 cards. This is probably... I actually like this. I think this is good in blue. Because if your opponent is attacking you with big things, you could just turn them into a rabbit and then just eat them. And if your opponent isn't attacking you with big things, you can just, at the end of their turn, 4 mana draw cards. It's fine. I think this is good. Because this is again one of those, it's removal or something else. Or if you have the mana, it's removal and you get to draw cards, which is really good. So I think this is a good card. I'd play this if I was in blue. Nimble Brigand. 3 mana for a 1/3. Can't be blocked if you've committed a crime this turn, sure. And when it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This is fine. As long as you've got enough ways to commit crimes, you can just use it as a draw engine. I like this card. It's a bit weak. So, you know, you're not going to be killing people with it. So many out there. Spamming your go, then when I'm playing faster than them. Brother, if I'm so wrong, so counting exact math plays I want to do, you can always sit and wait. We can see each other. The instant you throw back the your go spam or the rope, they then concede. Yeah, a lot of people. You remember I think it was you who helped me make that Super Friends deck last time we were doing Magic. I've been playing that quite a lot, and the amount of people that like, there have been games by turn 5 I have 3 planeswalkers on the board, and my opponent is, when it's my turn, just spamming your go because I'm trying to select the planeswalker abilities I want, and then on their go they're just letting the rope burn out, and I'm just like, bro, why? Like, I know it's a bit upsetting that I'm just playing Esper Super Friends, I'm sure. I know I countered your spell on turn 2 and then proceeded to just vomit Planeswalkers 3, 4, and 5. But, like, if you're so mad, just concede. I do it all the time. Like, if I get completely bent over, I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I just lose. Right, Outlaw Stitcher. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it was, turn 3 was 3 mana Lily, make them sack their creature. Turn 4 was, what's it? The woman who makes the 1/1 flyers. And turn 5 was, the black, what's it, the mono black one that has exile cards and stuff. And I was like, so turn 5, yeah, like turn 5 I had Liliana on the field. I had the woman, the 4 mana spirit woman that that has +1 make a spirit and all that. The one that also has a Kaya, that one. And we had the 5 mana what's the name, the mono black weird ghost demony thing. I can't remember its name. It's got like a half a head that's got all fog coming out of it. Does C double rotate? I don't know. I don't know what C double. Oh, the diplomacy thing. The one that makes copies of spells. I'm not sure. I don't know when... rotation isn't this set. I think it's next set. One where you target a creature, it copies the effect. Yeah. I have no idea about that card. I haven't played it. I've never seen it. Vesuvian Diplomancy. Yeah. I haven't played that card. Right, I'm going to get back to Outlaw Stitcher quickly. So, 4 mana for a 1/4. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 blue-black zombie rogue creature, then put 2+1/+1 counters on that token for each spell you've cast this turn other than the first. And you can plot this for 5. Interesting. So, I guess multiple spells in a turn has a zombie sub-theme? Weird. I like this card, though. If zombies are a thing, if I can get Geralf and this guy going, I might try and make blues. Hopefully it's blue-black, and I might try to see if we can make some blue-black zombies again. I tried making blue-black zombies work before, and it was terrible, so maybe I can make it work this time. But yeah, I think if you're running a plot deck, I think Outlaw, like in Limited, I think Outlaw Stitch is good. But I think apart from that, I don't... I mean, I suppose this is a 4-mana 3/6 spread across 2 bodies. But if you do have some plot cards, the zombie token can get very big. I think this is okay. Again, I think you have to build the deck for it, but I think this is okay. And I don't think you're plotting this card. I think you're just playing this card with other plot cards in there. Peerless Rope Master. A 5-mana 4/4 when it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target tapped creature to its owner's hand. It's okay. Yeah, it's fine. It's a bit expensive. It's 5-mana 4/4. And it only returns tapped creatures. I don't know. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. Nah. It's okay. Phantom Interference. So, for 4 mana, you can create a 2/2 with flying. And for 2 mana, you can counter something as its controller plays 2. Again, this is one of those cards that's probably good, just because it has... So, in the early game, you can use it as a 2-mana counter anything, which is great. And as soon as your opponent has enough mana that they don't have to worry about getting countered, you can just make a 2/2. The 2/2 is really inefficient because it's a 4-mana 2/2 with flying. Like, the flying's good, but a 4-mana 2/2 is just gross. But if you mainly take this because you want the counterspell, and then just happen to also have the chance to make it into a 2/2, I think this is probably fine. Probably good, in fact. Well, fine. I'm going to say fine, because counterspells aren't great usually in Limited, but... Plan the Heist. Okay. 4 mana, Surveil 3, if you have no cards in hand. Then draw 3 cards. With plot 4. So this is 4 mana, draw 3. I don't think you're ever going to be down at 0 cards in hand, and if you are, this card is insane. But I think if you just... It's a 4 mana, draw 3. I think 4 mana, draw 3 is fine. It's not super exciting, but I mean... It's functional. It's sorcery speed, 4 mana, draw 3. The plot thing maybe makes it good, because then you can plot it and play all of your plot. You're just saving it. I think for the plot deck, you're kind of just saving up all of your plotted cards and then doing one big turn when you can make some zombies with it or something. I don't know. I think this card is okay. It doesn't excite me massively, but it's probably fine. Razzle Dazzler. Okay. 2 mana for a 1/2. When you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Razzle Dazzler. It can't be blocked this turn. This is probably a good card. Like, it's common, it's cheap, it gets bigger, and you're going to want to be casting multiple spells a turn probably anyway, and you can do so quite easily with plot. This is probably a really good card. Like, this will probably end some games and people will be mad about it because you can't interact with it. But, I mean, you can blow it up with spells and stuff. And there's a lot of removal in white at least. Blue hasn't had a massive amount, but blue never does. So we'll have to see what black has to offer. Seize. Oh my god. I'm sorry, I'm already losing my voice. Seize the Secrets. 3 mana, draw 2 cards. Or the spell costs 1 less to cast if you committed a crime this turn. 2 mana, draw 2 cards. This, if you have ways on creatures to target something, this is for free. This is a great card. I think this is good enough, actually. I think this is it's 3 mana, draw 2, so it's the whatever the standard blue draw spell is. Nice. Yeah, I think this card is good because it's literally just whatever the 3 mana blue draw 2 cards spell is, divination. But occasionally it's cheap divination because you've screwed your opponent over, which blue likes to do. So this is probably good in limited. Still probably good because drawing cards can be good in limited. So yeah, I'd still play this. I think this is good. Shackle Slinger. 3 mana for a 3/2. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, choose target creature an opponent controls. If it's tapped, put a stun counter on it. Otherwise, tap it. Probably okay. I don't know. This is one of those cards where if you get it going, it's probably really fucking good. But you have to play 2 cards a turn to get this thing going. But you don't have to tap this. So this can still attack after tapping down an opponent's thing and stunning it, maybe. I'm gonna give it It's fine. I'm not too excited. Again, I think a lot of the blue cards aren't going to excite me because I'm not really much of a blue player, but this is Shifting Grift. For 4 mana, exchange control of 2 target creatures. 3 mana artifacts, 3 mana enchantments. Give your opponent a 1/1 and you get their biggest boy. Sure. This is probably good, actually, because it's only 4 mana. 4 mana, you get something shit, I get something good. Is probably... This is probably really good. Like, irritatingly good. Like, I'm going to run into this card in limited and it's going to piss me off. Yeah. Because just, you play like a huge creature, think you're way ahead on the board, and your opponent just takes it from you and gives you something shit. Yeah, that's going to be annoying. Slingshot Lockpicker. Okay. 3 mana for a 2/3. When Slingshot Lockpicker enters the battlefield, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback is equal to its mana cost, and you can plot this to play it for free the following turn. If you plot this, or if you play it normally, the instant or sorcery speed might as well only be a sorcery because you can only play it for its flashback cost on your turn. Unless there's a way to make plot cards playable on your opponent's turn, which we haven't seen yet. It's probably okay. Again, we'll have to see if there's any really good stuff to play from the graveyard. But, I mean... It's got plot we can maybe use to make some big zombies and stuff. It's probably good. It's probably good. I'm giving it a poor rating because I don't really know what we'd flashback, but again, flashback is one of the better effects in Magic. I mean, Snapcaster Mage was insane for I don't know how long. Probably still is insane. But Snapcaster Mage had Flash, so this doesn't have Flash. We'll have to see. Slickshot Vaultbuster. A 3 mana 1/4 with Vigilance, and it's a 3/4 if you've committed a crime. It's okay, sure. It's one of those, you know, this is your 23rd card in a deck, and sure, why not? I don't know if blue aggro is going to be a card, is going to be a type, but sure. Spring Splasher. A 2 mana, 2/1. Whenever it attacks, target creature defending player controls gets -3, -0 until end of turn. This could be a really annoying effect. Like, this could be a really annoying effect. There was a card that had this in a previous set, like a Phyrexian set. And I remember having a deck with like 2 or 3 of them, and I was just swinging at my opponent, and nothing he had, like, he only had, like, none of his creatures could block, and because they were all 0/2s or whatever, because of the -3, and yeah, it's a really annoying little card. You can really piss some people off with this card. I don't know if it's good. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's really annoying in limited. Step Between Worlds. 5 mana, 6 if you plot it. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library. Each player who does draws... Oh, may shuffle their hand and graveyard into the library. Each player who does draws 7 cards. So it's just a reset. Okay. In limited, this is probably just annoying. But if you're running this as one of your cards, like, I don't know. What are you trying to do with this card? I don't know. It's a draw 7, I guess. Like, maybe I can't imagine this being good. It's just, I don't think I'd run it, but maybe I would. Probably not. It's just a bit... It's like pay 5 mana to do nothing to the board. It's probably not good enough. Yeah, I don't think it's good enough. Stoic Sphinx. A 4 mana flying flash 5... You're just playing this card. Flash flying. Stoic Sphinx has hexproof as long as you haven't cast a spell this turn. This card is a game-winning card. This is gross. This is Blue's game-winning mono-colored thing. This is what Blue wants to be winning the game with. You play this at the end of your opponent's turn. It doesn't have hexproof for the final seconds of your opponent's turn. Whether they have if they have instant speed removal, they can pick it off then. If they don't, it becomes your turn. It has flying and a hexproof, and you just sit there and wait. And then if your opponent play stuff in your opponent's turn, and if he finally removes it, you vomit all your plot cards or something. This is really good. Stop Cold, 4 mana, flash. Ooh. Enchant artifact creature. When it's the battlefield, tap enchanted permanent, and it loses all abilities and doesn't untap. This is slightly expensive for blue removal, but it does have flash, so you can do it at instant speed. And they lose all abilities, so they literally can't do anything. So you probably take this just because it's removal. It's like decent blue removal. Take the Fall. A 1 mana instant speed. Target creature gets -1/-0 until end of turn. It gets -4/-0 until end of turn if you control an outlaw. Draw a card. Probably good enough. It replaces itself. It's fine. And maybe you get to use it on a creature and block it and kill it without it killing one of yours. This is probably a good card. Just because the draw a card part, it's just a, cantrip. You just bounce it. And there's cards that want you to play multiple cards in a turn, and this just cantrip's great for those. So, yeah, I like this card. I think this card is good in blue. This town ain't big enough. 5 mana to return up to 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. It costs 3 less if it targets a permanent you control. Okay, so for 5 mana, bounce 2 things from your opponent. For 2 mana, bounce 1 thing from your opponent and 1 thing from yourself? Or 2 things from yourself? Because it costs 3 less to cast if it targets a permanent you control. And it's returned 2 target non-land permanents. So you can bounce 2 things from your opponent for 5, 2 things from yourself for 2, or 1 thing from your opponent and 1 thing from yourself for 2. I think this is actually pretty good. It's, in the late game, it's bounce 2 things from your opponent, which is nice, because it's just get rid of 2. And then your opponent has to replay both of them, and hopefully you can't do that in the same turn. For 2 mana, it's bounce your big scary thing and something I have with a battle cry, hopefully. Or battle cry, with an enter the battlefield effect. Sorry, I've been watching some Hearthstone. I watched Brian Kibler play Hearthstone, so that's where the battle cries come from. Yeah, bounce something on your side with an enter the battlefield effect, hopefully. The only case this is bad is if you literally don't have anything apart from lands. And if you can't afford this, and your opponent is killing you with something, and you don't have anything apart from lands, I mean, you're kind of buggered at that point. I think this is good. I'd probably take this. It's like, sort of like blue removal, I guess. 3 steps ahead. So, for 3 mana, you can counter something. For 4 mana, you can create a token that's a copy of target artifact creature you control. And for 3 mana, you can draw 2, then discard. At instant speed. Yeah, it's a good card. I like this card. It's, you know, got a whole bunch of stuff to it. So you can either 3 mana counter your opponent's thing, 4 mana create an extra token of a card on your side, which is good, and 3 mana at the end of your opponent's turn, draw 2, discard 1. This is a good card. I like this card. It's good in blue. Visage Bandit. Okay. 4 mana, or you can plus 3. You may have Visage Bandit enter the battlefield as a copy of target creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter rogue, in addition to its other types. What would we want to copy? The Sphinx, I guess. I don't know. This is probably really good, and I just don't know where it's really good. But this is probably really good. If you pull it in your sealed or limited, you're probably smarter than I am. You'll probably think up some way to make it really good. But me personally, while I'm just looking through the cards like this, I'm just like, sure. Here's Jace. So, I will say, you'll see down the bottom, this is card 76, this is card 271. Now, I don't know what's happening with this Jace, but there's supposedly 276 cards in this set. The last 5 of them being the basic lands, and then after that there's a bunch more numbers, but they're all like the special full art things and all that sort of stuff, which we don't look at. So, for some reason, this card isn't in order with the blue cards. It's in with the lands. So, I don't know if this is like a Planeswalker, like a commander-only thing, or like... apparently it's in the standard set, but it has like a really... I don't know why it's so outnumbered with everything else. So we're going to react to it and see what we think of it. But I have no idea why this thing's numbering goes suddenly so weird. So I don't know. Maybe I've done this wrong. Maybe this is like only in Commander, or maybe this is something completely separate. But we've been through that. That's the last blue card. So we've been through all of blue, and we haven't seen another Jace. We haven't seen other Jace. So this is the base Jace, and for some reason it's number 271. When, as you'll see, like the blue stops at 76 and the black starts at 77. So why is this blue card 271? I don't know. Anyway, a 2-mana Planeswalker. That's terrifying. A 2-mana plane. Okay, you can't cast a spell during your first, second, or third turns of the game. Okay, so actually this is a turn 4 Planeswalker. Slightly less terrifying. When it comes in, you can either draw a card and discard a card. Pretty good. Or exile a non-land card with exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. Okay. And until end of turn, whenever you cast a spell, holy that's scary. I mean, you can't play him turn 1, 2, or 3, so he has to come down on turn 4. On turn 4, he comes down for 2 mana, leaving 2 left, and you just +1 him to draw a card and discard a card. You probably don't do the plotted thing, unless you have something you really want to plot. I mean, either way, it's a +1, so I guess it doesn't really matter. He doesn't protect himself, but you will have 2 mana left. Also, does this mean Jace got his spark back? How did that happen? I don't think this is that good in limited. If it's turn 4 and your opponent doesn't have a way of attacking into this Jace, then playing it, you've probably won the game, actually, thinking about it. But it's turn 4 and your opponent has nothing that can attack Jace. Really? Because either you're winning the board, which isn't very likely when you're playing blue, or your opponent has played nothing, or you've removed everything your opponent's played, or your opponent has played nothing for 4 turns. It's double blue, which makes this more difficult to play as well. It's not like... I don't know. It's probably good. It's a Planeswalker. They're all good. I just don't know how good it'll actually be in limited being the thing. But it's probably... It's Planeswalker out of 10 because, you know, it's the only rating I can